Purchasing growth the investor way to gain more clients. Now, I chose this title specifically because I want you to start thinking about moving outside of the realm of sweat equity. So there's a level of growth in your business that will happen with you just reaching out to family and friends, with you just reaching out in the community, with you just connecting with potential referral sources, other law firms, whatever. Those are all perfectly good, viable sources of business. But, what if you're trying to go from 500,000 to 2 million in 1 year? You heard me on day one, you want a 10x growth, you want to take this massive leap in your business. What's it going to take? Or if you're running at 2 or 3 million and you want to go to 10, what is it going to take this massive leap? What it's going to take is finding predictable, repeatable ways of client acquisition. It's going to take understanding that leads are not the only way to get new business in the door. And that's what we want to explore today in my 2 talks. Is we want to explore, what does this look like? If I were to approach this from an investor mindset, if I was going to say, okay, I've got this new problem, I've got to exponentially grow, how do I do that? That's what we're going to address right now. Okay, where do clients come from? Firms struggle to find clients while others are turning them away. Why can some firms grow their client base through acquisitions and others cannot? Now, many of you have never even considered an acquisition. I'm just going to spend 1 minute on acquisitions here because people think, I can't buy a business. Who am I, right? I'm just a solo. I'm just an attorney, right? I would say, like, even a lawyer who's just starting their practice, you're opening your doors for the first time, you can acquire another law firm. There are people out there who are looking for the exit. Believe it or not, there's something like 60% of law firms, when the owner retires, they shut the doors for good and they don't sell the business. So if you want an instant business that has personnel, or an instant business that has clients, or an instant business that has a system or a process to client acquisition, you should explore the possibility of buying a business. Even if you don't have any money to give, believe it or not, the second problem is that most business owners have a hard time selling because buyers don't have the capital. So there's SBA financing available, but that requires some money down. If you want to do a deal with $0 down, you just need seller financing. You need to find a buyer that understands that the best deal at their fingertips is you coming in and giving them some sort of payout over X number of years, usually tied to the revenue or profit of the business, that they're going to basically have this annuity for 5 or 10 years or whatever that time frame is, and you take over the reins. So I don't want to I'm not doing a whole talk on purchasing a law firm, but when I talk about acquisition, I want everybody in the room to recognize that it doesn't matter what your credit score is, it doesn't matter what your financial position is, it doesn't matter how early or late in the game you are, you could be exploring acquisition as one of your options. Now, we had some speakers talk about positioning your firm for sale, but there's one speaker we had, Tom Lonfesti, who has the Law Practice Exchange, and my team can go grab his URL and drop it into chat. He's not a sponsor, but he has a marketplace for buying and selling law firms. So if you want to just kind of kick the tires and see what's out there, check it out. And I would invite you to consider that you don't have to limit your search to your geographic area, depending on what you're building, the practice here, or whatever, but it may be worthwhile to explore purchasing somebody's business just for their team. And if they can work remote, you can get some really good players in one fell swoop. So that's just something that you want to think about. All right, this was a little bit of a detour on this talk, but why can some firms grow their client base through acquisitions and others cannot? So there's different types of clients, and I've broken this down not by the actual client, but by the way you're positioning your services. So you can be selling to a client that has a one-time fixed need. Now, let me just talk about this terminology I'm using so that you can understand what I'm talking about. One-time fixed need means that they have a need one time for something, unlikely to need to come back and do it again, and the price is pretty much fixed. It's not like litigation where it could be 10 hours or it could be 100 hours. It's not like personal injury where it could be a $20,000 settlement or it could be a $300,000 settlement, right? So this one-time fixed need, good example of that is estate planning, bankruptcy, DUI. Now, somebody who drives drunk probably drove drunk 83 times before, according to statistics, so they're probably going to get another DUI at some point, and they could be a repeat business. So you'll see in the next item that I've included career criminals, not this one, but the next item. We'll see. But the next step is a one-time need, but the size of it is variable. And here it's personal injury, right? Somebody is unlikely to get injured twice. It can happen, and they can be a repeat customer, so that happens. But what percentage of a personal injury business is repeat clients? Probably a very small percentage, right? So it's one time, but it varies. It could be a tiny settlement. It could be a massive settlement. Divorce could be a really easy, amicable divorce, $5,000 said and done, or they could be fighting with each other for the next 6 years over custody and child support modifications, and that one client could turn into a $60,000 client. First and second degree criminal, workers' comp, litigation. You get the idea. All of these different clients, they're one time, unlikely to come for a repeat business. It's possible, but unlikely. And we can't predict the value of that client. Could be small, could be large. Then we've got repeat fixed need. Repeat fixed need is where the business is repeat, but the need is fixed. Think business agreements and contracts, right? So I go to a business attorney and I say, hey, I need a speaker agreement for my summit. And then next week, I need an agreement for a vendor I'm going to be doing business with. And the week after that, I need an agreement for or a contract for a new hire I'm doing, right? Each of these things is pretty cookie cutter. It's pretty straightforward, flat fee, for every agreement or contract that we're doing. But I keep coming back for more because that need is not going away. I'm always going to have that attorney that I'm going to be calling to continue to do business with, right? And then there's repeat business where the need is variable. And this is pretty much your litigation. It's your general business attorney where they're doing all kinds of additional things outside of the basics, landlord-tenant issues, and your, did I remove career criminal from my slide? Oh, but this is and your repeat fixed need would be your career criminal as well. I forgot to put it back after I went to move it. I thought that was pretty funny. But anyway, so those are your 4 different types of clients. Now, why is it important to know what these 4 different types of clients are? Because the way you approach marketing and even the conversation we just had about acquisitions is going to be different depending on which one of these buckets you're serving. So the value of a client with a variable need can be greater than the value of a client with a fixed need. The value of a client with a variable need can be greater than the value of a client with a fixed need, right? We all understand that, right? The client with a fixed need, probably a flat fee. Now the flat fee could be really large, but usually it's going to be a smaller amount. It's going to be somewhere under $10,000 usually, where a variable need is usually going to be billed hourly, and those hours can add up, and they could be $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, or it could be a contingency-based case where it's a percentage of a payout that could be really large, right? The value of a repeat or recurring client is even better than that. The value of a repeat or recurring client is even better than that, right? Because what happens? You invest once to acquire the client, whatever your marketing costs are to acquire a client, but they keep coming back for more. So if we look at the lifetime value of that client, it can far exceed the value of any of these other clients. Now, a massive personal injury, payout which can be life-changing for the attorney and for the firm, is the outlier. That's probably the exception. You may not supersede that with a repeat business client customer, right? But you understand where I'm going with this is that if you have repeat customers, you now have a built-in mechanism of recurring revenue that you don't have in these other businesses. Variable need clients create uncertainty in a business. You never know when you're going to land a big one. So if you use averages, you can underperform for a long time until that big case pays out. So let's just talk about what this means. I'm a personal injury attorney. On average, my pre-lit cases are settling for $15,000 a piece. One out of every 100 cases, I get a case that's a, $500,000 settlement, which, turns into a $150,000 payout to the firm. So if we take that $150,000 payout to the firm and add it to that total and then average, it's going to raise the average of all the cases by $15,000. So now my average case value is going to be 30 instead of 15. So if we make projections based on our average case value, we're not going to see those projections play out properly until we get that big case and that big case pays. And there's no guarantee that that's going to come, and it's few and far between. So when I say variable needs clients create uncertainty in a business, you never know when you're going to land a big one. And if you use averages, you can underperform for a long time until that big case pays out. Basically what I'm saying is that it creates a level of unpredictability, and maybe we just need to exclude it when we're looking at business decisions. Now, repeat clients create predictability and consistency in the business. Do you have those? So I want you to ask yourself, do I have repeat clients? And if not, can you get them? Meaning, does the area of law that you practice have the opportunity to position something that you sell to be a repeat business item? The example that we gave was the contracts, right? So look at a business, attorney, right? Business attorney can wait for their client to have a need and contact them. So it is repeat business, but it's not recurring. It's not repeatable on a regular basis. But what if they turn around and turn it into a subscription and sell that to the client, where now we turn it into a recurring revenue stream every month? So that's an example where if you don't have it, you could actually make it, okay? So if you answered yes, you have repeat business or you could create repeat business, then the first thing you want to consider is buy other law firms. Go and find another law firm that already has a book of business, turn that book of business into those repeat clients. Their client list has value, has immense value, right? You're either buying an already set up recurring revenue stream, or a book of business that a percentage of them could be converted to recurring revenue clients. Now, the value of buying a firm as it relates to client acquisition is severely diminished if you're in a practice area that doesn't have a lot of repeat business. Even if you look at them just as referral sources, they may not refer business to the new ownership. So what I'm saying is that if we're looking to grow our business through law firm acquisition, looking strictly on the lead generation and new business side of it, the law firms out there that have value are the ones that have repeat business. The ones that don't, at best, you're buying a list of customers that would send referrals to you. But who's to say they'll send referrals to you when they find out it's a new attorney, a new owner? Their relationship is with the previous owner, and now it might be with the previous staff, and then that would be fine. But often the relationship's with the previous owner. So there's no telling that even that goodwill that you'd be buying would actually bear fruit into referral business coming in the door. So from a client acquisition and law firm growth perspective on that side, acquisitions may not make sense if you don't have this recurring revenue model. Now, if they have figured out a marketing system to bring in new business, that's something I would buy. If they have a team that is efficient, that knows what they're doing, they're experienced, they already have systems and processes in place, that's something that I would potentially buy. How you value that is a whole nother conversation. But from a I need more clients place. I need to get more clients. How can I buy that? If you have a business that you can turn into repeat business from your existing client base, I would look to buy law firms as the first step in my growth strategy, because it is a cheat code to creating a portfolio of clients very quickly without needing to test different marketing systems and find a marketing system that works for you. All right, so let's pivot to marketing. So now we're past the acquisition. It's for you, it's not for you. Let's talk about marketing itself. There's two big mistakes that law firm owners make in their approach to marketing. One is they approach from a place of, I need more clients. And the second is, even if they're willing to spend, determining how much to spend based on current financial conditions. So let me sum this up for you. Number one, if you approach it from I need more clients, you're already asking the wrong question, because you're just trying to find what is the best or fastest way for me to get another client. And you're probably going to invest in really expensive marketing tactics that are not going to create a system or a runway for you to continue to get more clients. So you're going to probably go to lead sources that are pay per lead or Google LSAs or something like that. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with those, but those might not be the best place for you to invest, and you're just approaching the question from the wrong place. The second mistake is we think that because I'm currently doing $1 million, I can only afford to spend $10,000 a month in marketing. And the problem is that if you approach it from where you are right now, you're never going to get to the place that you need to be for that level of growth. Because if you were doing $3 million in revenue, how much would you be willing to spend in marketing? I would argue, let's say it's 30,000, right? Let's say it's 10%. So you're spending 10,000 today. To create 3 million in revenue, you have to spend 30. But if you approach it from your current financial situation, you're never going to be willing to spend 30. So the second big mistake we make in marketing is we approach the marketing conversation of creating the budget of what I'm willing to spend based on my current situation. And the investor doesn't do that. The investor looks at, where do I want to go? What does it take to get there? Now let me invest in that future. And we can discuss, okay, where does that money come from? But it's really important to understand that these are the two biggest mistakes that firm owners make, right? Many owners are not even investing in marketing, right? They're just investing in sweat equity, which it'll pay some dividends, but it's never going to get you to that multi-million-dollar revenue, or almost, it'll take a long time to get to that multi-million-dollar level. Okay. So how to properly approach marketing. You begin with the end in mind. We determine what our revenue goal is. Then we work backwards to define the number of clients needed to produce that goal. Then we set a budget. Then we approach the marketing choices based on what the highest ROI opportunities are that are within your budget. And let's step into those. Okay. All right. How to properly approach marketing. Let's start with begin with the end in mind. What does that mean? What does begin with the end in mind mean? I already alluded to this. So this is simply setting a goal. I like to work backwards from your desired personal income, and my clients who are in the room, they know, they know exactly, how I do that, right? So here's the example. Let's say our desired income, personal income, is $1 million before taxes. Now, let's say that I'm targeting a profit margin of 30%. That is the lower end of what I feel is healthy. A healthy business runs at 30 to 45, 50% profit margin, right? Most law firms, by the way, just to put this in context, not solos. Solos run usually at a 50% profit margin because you have very low expenses and you're basically, all the money is going to you, but you're the attorney. But when you go beyond solo, what happens is on our fractional CFO side of the business, most businesses coming in the door and having a conversation with us are running multi-million dollars of revenue, and they're operating somewhere between 5 and 15% profit margin, which is mind-boggling, right? But we can easily get them fairly quickly to close to that 30% number, if not above it, within 1 or 2 quarters. 30% is very doable. Anyway, so I digress. Target of 30% profit margin. How do we figure this out? $1 million personal income divided by 0.3, that's your 30% margin, gives you 3,333,333. Okay, so this is very precise math. I didn't want to put incorrect numbers, but we can easily round that, right? Let's call it 3.3 million, right? You need to do 3.3 million in revenue if you want to create $1 million personal income before taxes at a 30% profit margin. So far, it's straightforward, right? And I know math is, I hate doing math in these talks, but the reality is that that's how I approach these things, right? I'm a very logical, numbers-oriented person, and when you approach it from this way, it gives you a lot of clarity. And we're going to create that clarity for you right now. So you need 3.3 million in revenue to create your income goal. Now, what's next? Work backwards to define the number of clients needed to produce that goal. How do we do that? Figure out the average revenue per client. I'm not going to do that here. Just understand that you can just take your total revenue for the year divided by the number of clients served. That'll give you your average revenue per client. That's not precise, but that's a pretty good enough number for you to use in these exercises. Divide the revenue target by the average per client, and you now know how many clients you need. So let's do an example. Let's say our average revenue in the above example is $5,000 per client. So we need 3.3 million. We have an average revenue of 5,000. That's 667 clients that you need, and I round it up, 667 clients that you need in the year to produce 3.3 million in revenue. That is 56 clients per month. So now we already have a level of clarity that most of you in the room probably didn't have before, right? We now know how many clients we need to get a month. That is a key number to know in the marketing discussion. Now, we set a budget. How do we set a budget? So important to note, I already made this point before, but we'll make it again. Proposed budget will not align with today's business finances. If you're doing $1 million today and trying to jump to 3 million, the new budget will be 30% of the current revenue. So if you had 10% before, you're trying to triple, you're going to be 30% of your current revenue in your new marketing spend. But that new marketing spend should produce results fairly quickly and start paying for itself. And now you have the higher amount of revenue, right? So, but there is this gap from when you start spending the money until you start collecting the revenue on it. And that gap you're going to have to cover, whether it's with savings, whether it's from operational money, meaning we take a hit to profitability, or whether we actually need to go and get some capital in the door. Understanding this is important because you may need capital to execute at this level. So what we do with our clients, and what I'm going to encourage you to do is, all said and done, plan out your next 24 months and identify where you're going to have a cash shortfall so you establish your new budget well prepared and you can make sure that you have the finances in place to make this work. Now, we approach the marketing choices based on what the highest ROI opportunities are that are within your budget. Now, I'm not going to go into the specific marketing tactics on this talk because there's so many out there. There's so many ways to be successful, and it depends on your geographic location. It depends on your practice area. It depends on your budget. So what do we have? We have the full question that we need to ask. And success in business is directly tied to the quality of the question that you're asking. And up until this point in this presentation, the question you probably were asking was, how do I get more clients? Or how do I get more leads? But the question needs to be done differently. This is now the question that we need to ask. What are the best ROI marketing campaigns that we should perform to gain 56 clients per month on a maximum spend of $27,778? Now, that's a very precise number. Feel free to round. Again, I used my precision math so that I'm not called out on incorrect numbers on the screen. But we now have a budget and a goal. And now when we go and talk to marketers and talk to marketing agencies, we can ask the right question, which is, hey, I need to acquire 56 clients a month. I've got $28,000 to spend. What do we do? Right? What do we do? So go back to the slides. Choose the marketing vendors to align yourself with. There are literally hundreds of marketing vendors out there. The problem, here's the problem, and you're all too familiar with this problem. What's the problem? They almost never do it all, right? So an SEO company is not going to tell you to use billboards. A PPC company, PPC is SEO is search engine optimization, PPC is pay-per-click, for those of you who don't know those terminologies. A PPC company is not going to tell you to use SEO, right? So every marketer out there has their own interests aligned when they're having conversations with you. Now, I'm not saying that marketers are bad. Okay. I'm not saying anything from a place of judgment about marketing agencies or marketers. What I am saying is you as a business owner need to approach this question with the knowledge and understanding that when you're talking to a marketing agency, they have their own interests in mind. So we want to figure out a way to solve this problem without getting into that conflict. How do we do that? So the solution is to hire a fractional CMO or a marketing consultant, okay? Or an in-house marketing person, They will analyze your options with no conflict of interest. They likely know the good marketing agencies for anything they will recommend. They understand that you need diversification and lead sources, but that there is also power in putting all your resources into a single effort. And they will not only create the plan, they will also show you how to gauge the success and how to time the components of it. So this is really important because most of the people in the room are not marketers, right? We're law firm owners. So you don't understand, not only you don't understand the jargon, but you don't understand what you're looking at, even when they give you a report. You need somebody to educate you to understand how to read it. We were in the mastermind room yesterday, and one of the firm owners was like, I'm doing whatever, hundreds of thousands of dollars in business, but I don't know what I'm looking at when I look at QuickBooks, right? Like I don't know how to pull the information from there, read a report. It's the same thing, right? If you got a marketing report, you don't know how to read it. You don't know whether it's good or bad. So the marketer is going to tell you, oh yeah, we're doing great. We got amazing cost per click. Okay, great, but how many leads did I get? Oh, well, we didn't get any leads. So what do I care about the cost per click, right? So you have to understand the jargon. You have to understand what it means. Getting a marketing person in your corner that is not the vendor that you're hiring to do the actual activity that you decide to invest in is going to be really critical in this process. So find a fractional CMO, find a marketing consultant that doesn't do the actual marketing, or bring an in-house marketer into your business in order to solve this problem. Now, I want to introduce you to a coach in my program. Her name is Cassidy Lewis. She just started a new business. So she is a CMO for a 9-office personal injury firm in Virginia. She is a rock star. She knows what she's doing. She's also the marketing coach in our Profit with Law Elite Coaching Program, which is one of the values of having a coach in your corner is you might be able to get some of this direction and feedback in these programs. But she just started the CMO Academy. So if you have a marketing person or you want to hire a marketing person, you can put them through her training where she will train them on the ins and outs of marketing, specifically when it comes to law firms, and really help them to get the answer to your question of how do I get 56 clients for $28,000? Now, the final piece of the puzzle is to understand how to measure results. So Geet Sakalakis yesterday gave a whole talk about direct response marketing and pay-per-lead sources are easy to measure. Other forms of advertising are more difficult. Now, I'm actually not going to give you the answer here because it really depends on what marketing campaign you're running. But whenever you are going to invest in marketing, it is critical that you start off knowing how it's measured. How are we going to know if this is successful? If I don't have a way of knowing whether this is successful, I got to be really careful about whether I want to invest in this or not. And I have this right now with one of my clients. They have an in-house marketing person. He has a background in TV. They spend $100,000 a month on TV ads. And I said, how are we measuring this? And he said, well, if we strip out the direct response leads that came in and we take the rest and we just observe it for increase. So we increase our spend, and if we see if that number increases, then we must be doing something. But you know what? I hate that way of measuring it, but at least it's a way of measuring it. At least we're asking the question. Now we know what we have to measure. Now we can build that into our dashboard. We can build that into our reporting, and we can be paying attention to that number. So before you press go on any marketing campaign, you should already know what you're measuring, what result is good, how long you're running to try to get to the desired result. And that is the end of this presentation.
I hope you enjoyed that amazing content replay from the Law Firm Growth Summit. Folks, if you need help, guidance along the way, that's what we do here at Profit with Law. Whether you're a solo trying to expand beyond yourself, or you've got 4 or 5 attorneys on staff, you're doing $4 or $5 million in revenue, we can help you. We've got coaching for solo to smalls. We've got fractional CFO services for the larger firms, 2 million plus. But it all starts with a strategy session. That strategy session is absolutely free. One of my teammates will have that call with you, and what they're going to do on that call is help you to get clarity around where you're headed. What are you actually trying to create? What are the obstacles that are in your way? And more importantly, how do you overcome those obstacles? Imagine that you can get all of that clarity in 30 minutes. Believe it or not, you actually can. We have a systemized process of extracting that information from you and helping you get to that level of clarity. When you leave the call, you're going to feel so much better about the growth and direction of your business. And if you want us at your side along the way, we can discuss what that looks like. But the 30-minute session is all about you, all about creating that clarity for you. You can book it now at profitwithlaw.com/strategy session, profitwithlaw.com/strategy session. Take care.